Hi guys, good morning. I am just setting up for our day 3 of this live. How's everyone doing? Drop me a comment in the chat so I know you're here. Hi Mary Ellen. Hi Kathleen. Good morning. Yeah, so how's everyone doing? Hi Amber. Yay, Amber, we have a local, well, sort of local. Sarnia, what? Um, yes. So how have you guys been enjoying the last 2 days? Do we like all the loose florals? Are we learning stuff? How's everyone doing? Let me know. I just wanted to make a quick mention because if you've been following me on YouTube, I know you know that I've been doing the Costa Brava series, which were videos showing you how to paint these right here. This one is still coming up. And it's based off the Costa Brava watercolor retreat that I am organizing for May of this year. We've got 2 spots left. I've not abandoned this series, by the way. We will be coming back to it, but I just wanted to give more focus to our loose florals, which is where my heart has always been. So for today, hi Beatrice. Good morning. By the way, guys, my middle name is Beatrice. Fun fact. Enjoying the painting time. Good, I'm glad. Okay, so for today, like I said, I'm trying to keep everything super simple and giving you a reference beyond just the video. So based off some of the items from my book right here, which is the Paint 50 Watercolor Nature series. And so for today, we're going to be focusing on florals that kind of have this effect right here. So today's topic is going to be wet on wet, but using multiple colors within that wet on wet to kind of achieve this beautiful loose effect while staying away from all the details. As you can see, it's the color that brings out those details. It's the white space that brings out the details. So these are 2 very important things when you are sitting down to paint loosely. So just keep that in mind as we begin our practice for today. I'm going to put this book aside for now and we're going to begin. So very quickly, like I said, this series is beginner friendly for folks so that you don't feel inundated to go out and buy a ton of items that you don't really need, especially if you're just trying out watercolor. So I recommend the Canson Watercolor XL paper, which is a student grade paper, very thick, very nice for people just trying their hand at watercolor and trying to figure out if this is for them. So we've got, so if you missed day one was these flowers right here, which is also available on the YouTube channel. You can check out the replay after. This was yesterday where we painted the Black-Eyed Susans. And then today, like I said, we're going to be focusing in on those lilacs to get those nice, beautiful shades of colors in there. For my brush, I'm going to be using just one brush. I know I've been using this to dampen the sheet in the past. We'll see how it goes for today. We're using the Princeton Velvetouch round number 4. Fabulous, fabulous brush. And then for colors, I have my Daler-Rowney set of watercolors, which is right here. The colors that I end up using, I'm going to let you know so you have an idea for your own practice. Now, I'm going to preface by saying, if you don't have any of these items, use whatever you have on hand. Don't let that stop you from giving this a try. And just remember before you begin that this is just a piece of paper. Have grace for yourself. Just don't be overly judgmental if you're not getting the results exactly like me. Rome was not built in a day. The more you do, the easier it gets for you. So just have fun and don't stress about the small things, okay? All right, so on that note, I'm going to take a seat and I'm going to make sure you can see properly. Good. Awesome. So let's begin. I'm going to start off with, I know I said we're going to be doing the lilacs, but what I want to start off with is to kind of take it back to my old school paintings of watercolor florals. So I'll start off with doing another another flower from the book. I'm just trying to find it here quickly. Give me a second. And I already have done a video for this. So if you want to focus specifically on that, I'm going to tag that video later on, so you can take your time doing it there. But I'm just trying to find it in the book. Give me 1 second. Here we go. We're going to do these ranunculus style flowers, which I think would also work great with our theme for today. And then we're going to flow into the lilacs. So it's all about, like I said, using colors to kind of get that wet effect, and all about the white space. I cannot stress how important white space is. If we didn't have white space, it would just look like one big blob with a green center, a pink blob with a green center. So keep these things in mind. All right, so let's begin. So I'm going to start off with a pink for the ranunculus. So my favorite is the alizarin crimson. And before I begin, if you all have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. And I promise you I'm going to address them later on. It's just that when I'm kind of talking and painting, all of these good things, I'm going to forget to sort of look up sometimes. One moment show over here, guys. So please, patience, grace would be appreciated. Okay, so we're going to start off with the alizarin crimson, and then I'm going to use a light green, maybe more like a leaf green for the center, just to get that nice little bloom of green. It's going to be very soft, so we're going to get more water, less color in our mixture for this, and then allow the pink to kind of shine through. Okay, so again, I'm keeping this very, very basic, especially for people who are just starting out, so do not feel intimidated, all right? Here we go. With my wet brush or damp brush, I'm just going to lightly get some color, just like this. And I have a little green happening here. I really didn't need another one, but for the sake of showing you what I would do if I didn't have any, this is what we're doing. So I'm just kind of mixing it onto my palette right there. I'm going to add a little bit of water in there. So nice fine pointed tip. I'm going to start doing little C strokes. So let me actually move down just a bit so you can kind of focus a little bit on what I am getting, or what I am doing rather. Okay. All right. So centered. Okay. Here we go. So little C stroke. So I'm going to start right smack dab in the middle, almost smack dab. So C strokes like this. So that's a C. I'm going to do another hook. Then I'm dipping the tip of my brush in water because the next few layers I want it to be lighter and slightly more thicker. So all I'm doing is recreating these C strokes around and then leaving lots of white space where it almost looks like a swirl. And I'm just going to wash off my brush roughly and mix some of the alizarin right here. Lots of pink, purpley hues happening on my palette already. I'm going to try and get some more unadulterated pink happening there. And again, we want this to be lighter because, like I've said in the beginning, when you start off lighter, you can build on the intensity of the color. So again, C strokes, but larger. And you're just going around. And notice the flick of the wrist that I am doing to get these strokes. Like I'm not sitting there and slowly going. I'm kind of going. I'm allowing the brush to kind of do its thing. Now I'm getting some water on my brush. What I'm going to do is continue doing this, but I'm not getting any more color right now, guys. I'm just kind of building up on the strokes with the color that I have. Now I'm getting some color because my brush has run out, and I'm going to build on some more. All right, so notice how white space is there we've got a little bit of the green integrating with the pink. And I'm going to stop painting more. I'm just trying to get a nice fluffing happening with the light pink. Now, before the center dries up, we're going to do that whole adding extra color in certain areas. So I'm getting color directly from my color cake. And I am going to just drop it in right there. Now notice the bloom, immediate bloom. That is because it is damp. Okay, these are not really secrets of watercolor. These are just things that you would notice that I'm making it, well, vocalizing it so you are able to see it in action. And this is going to help you in your process of understanding and knowing how to maneuver watercolor when you are sitting down to do your own practice. And this could be you painting anything really. The techniques are the same. As long as you understand how the medium works, life will get easier because then you know. Okay. So areas where you feel like it's just sitting there and you want more of a bloom, you can get more of a bloom. So just like roughly wash off your brush. And I say wash off your brush and dab it on paper towel because we don't want too much water on our brush. There's lots of water on here. Now with a damp brush, you're just going to slowly kind of help the color blend. If it is just sitting. If you got beautiful blooms and you are happy with them, you don't have to do anything. Okay. Now, notice how I have not added this everywhere. It's just in certain areas, and that's so that it can act as a very loose shadow effect, which is loose detail to your watercolor. So now I'm just going to get more color directly from my color cake. I'm using my damp brush, and I'm just going to add another layer. And what's happening right now is it's giving me a bleed or a blend, but not like how it did in the beginning. It's darker. It's a little it's not as flowy, and that's because my base has dried up. So it's sorry, not fully dried up. It's kind of slowly drying up. And so the more it dries up, when you add color, it's less bloom that you get. This is how timing and supplies play an effect in watercolor. And I say supplies because this, like I mentioned, is student grade watercolor paper. So it dries up quicker. So when you dampen your sheet, you got to work quickly. If you were working with 100% cotton paper, you would get that dampness for longer. So you could take your time mixing colors and whatnot and then move along. So just keep these things in mind because this is probably what people have been struggling with and just haven't been able to figure out what's wrong. So keep this in mind. Okay, so we've done our flower, renunculus / rose, because it could also be a rose very loosely. And now we're going to move on. Let's do one more because now you guys know the technique. Let's kind of go a little bit faster and you get practice out of it. So I'm getting my green, like I said, and then I'm going to do one more over here. And this time I think for the rose, for this ranunculus, I'm going to use a different color. Let's use something like Indian yellow, for example. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do little tiny C strokes here. Okay, so same C strokes, lots of white space, light as can be, just like a hint of green, right? Washing off my brush and kind of really smoothing out the green edges because now I'm going to go in with that green yellow and it's going to take over. So here we go with the Indian yellow. I saw a couple of people saying hi. Hi, Mary. Hi, Susie. Good morning. Hi, Cindy. Other paintings for these like tutorials. Absolutely. That was how I started, guys, back during like COVID times, and I do enjoy it because I feel like I can go with the flow more with you guys and engage as well. So color, dropping it in. This time I didn't mix the color on the color palette. I'm kind of just going with what I have on my brush and adding more to my brush. So in a way, I'm kind of mixing it on the paper, if you will. So now, keep in mind, ranunculus, their petals are a lot thinner than roses. Now, because I'm kind of going sweep of the hand kind of thing to create these, I'm getting slightly thicker strokes. But if you're a perfectionist and you're like, I'm going to really, really try and get some brush control in and get thinner strokes, I encourage you to try that. Like I said, the best way to learn things and kind of grow in technique is by practicing. The more you do, the easier it becomes. Right? So I'm kind of trying to deliberately go thinner. As you can see, these were thicker, but it's also kind of pointing upward. This is thinner. Now getting water, I'm kind of just adding a couple of touches around. And then we're going to go and add some in the centers. Okay, so here we go, getting some darker hues, just dropping it. And I'm only kind of doing it at the edge of some of these petals. I'm not covering up every little thing I have done. And this is what gives you that nice light and shadowy kind of effect. I'm looking up at the screen and I feel like the colors look so fluorescent on the screen. That's all good. I'm sure you guys are getting good results on your end. All right, just adding a couple more touches. Now, because this is almost kind of pointing a little bit in this direction, I'm going to add a couple more of these darker strokes here. Help it look like it's more upward and stretched, okay? I'm just adding just a tad bit more of this hue at the top, just so that it doesn't look very, very light. Because one of the things about watercolor is it dries up lighter. So right now it's damp, so it looks fine, but it's going to dry up lighter. So just keep that as well. Now, before we move on to the next couple of flowers, what I'm going to do is get a little bit of this darker green that I had mixed here. Now, you can take the green, mix it with a little bit of brown, which is what we've been doing for the past 2 days. And then I'm going to go in here using the fine pointed tip. I'm just going to do the center just a little bit. We're doing the same that I mentioned. I'm adding a darker stroke so it gives it more depth. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. One second, let me just make sure. Here. And then we're doing the same thing up here. You don't have to. This is just, if you like how yours looks, just leave it as is. You don't have to fuss. Okay, just a little bit over there. And now let's do the lilacs first, and then we'll do some of the leaves. So the lilacs, like I mentioned, also from the book Paint 50 Watercolor Nature. Let's look at it real quickly. I'm using 3 colors or 2 colors. No, I'm using 2 colors in this. So the base will start off lighter, and then we're going to be dropping in more adulterated color in there. So like getting it directly from the color kit. So more color, less water, dropping it in, allowing it to bloom, and then dropping in hints of that second pinky hue. Okay. So for my purples, I am going to use Hope we didn't do a little swatching this morning, but swatch a little bit. So I've got ultramarine pink. It sort of looks like it. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to do a quick swatch to see if this is the color we need or not. Let's see if I've got a scrap sheet of paper. I don't know. Actually, it's okay. Let's just swatch it at the top here. Yeah, so this I feel is a bit too pink, but we could use it as the second color that we drop in. So I'm going to put this aside, and then I'm going to pick another purple. So let me see. We've got cobalt violet. This might work. So let's get a little bit of this. I think this might work. I'm just going to do a swatch. Yeah, I think this should be fine. I think these two colors together will blend nicely. Is that Sue? S. Curry? Is that Sue? Hi, sweets. Are you at work today? No, it's Thursday. You're not. Okay, back to this. So I'm going to get a little bit of, let's get this tone. Yeah. My mistake, guys. This color looks so much like a violet that, sorry, not a violet, but like a purple that I thought I was going to start with that. We're starting off with the cobalt violet. I'm going to mix a little bit of that onto the side here. And I'm starting off light. Okay, so water it down as best as you can, like 30% color, 70%. And then making sure your brush is nice and full of water. So we're not looking for a fine pointed tip because we want to start dabbing or doing little dots on our sheet to kind of create that cone shape first. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do one over on this end. So I'm starting off at the top with a dot, and then I'm slowly kind of building up the shape as I go downward. Now what I'm also doing is dipping to add water so I get dark to light effect happening. So just dabbing, 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 making sure there's a lot of white space, because remember, if you don't have white space, you're not going to be able to get that nice, beautiful, loose effect. White space is everything when it comes to loose style of painting. If there's one thing I would say we need to focus in on, it's white space. And I know a lot of us have learned in school, oh, cover every spot with color. It has to be perfect. Remember those coloring books where you have to like color stuff? No, we're unlearning all of that. So I'm going all the way down, leading up into these flowers here. And then I'm just going to sort of stop at this edge. Okay. Now, if you notice, and I don't know if you can see this on screen, but this is almost like little tiny puddles of water, and they kind of they connect with each other, because this next step is going to be important. What I'm going to do now is get color directly from here. I don't need any more water on my brush. There's lots on here. Getting color from here, I'm going to start at the top and notice how it kind of goes downward. The reason the color is going down, because we've got all of them kind of interlocking with one another with white space. So I don't want it to all throughout. I just want to kind of add this color spots. Add some in the middle, allow it to bloom, allowing it to take its natural, do its natural thing. But we don't want to do it too close to one another, because then what's going to happen is it's going to close up all the white light space we have, and then it's just going to look like a blob sort of thing. So be mindful of how much color you're adding in these areas. Now I'm going to get some of this color right here. I'm going to add some of that at the bottom. There's a lot of water happening, which is why you're seeing almost like little rivers going on. You can drop some in between. And what I'm doing is just adding little dabs at the edges. This is what I call fluffing, which is pretty much adding a little bit of a frame to your main contact here. So going lighter on the edges. Okay. All right. So that's what I'm trying to do there. I'm going to get some more color. We're going to add a third bit. I'm going to extend that at the top. Add some off to the side here. And we're just kind of giving it very loose depth. Okay, so now once this is done, let's get some green. So I'm going to use some pre-mixed green that I have on here. This is Hooker's green mixed with, I believe, burnt sienna from yesterday. And now we need our nice fine pointed tip. What we're doing is very lightly adding little lines to kind of indicate these little attachments of flowers. It's very subtle, but it really does add something nice to the end result. Now, because I have some of the green on here already, let's add a couple of leaves because let's get right into it. So I'm going to add, I love how this is damp over here. So I'm just going to extend from here and add like a sprig right there. Sorry, not a sprig, a stem. Dipping my brush in water, and now going to press down and pull. And we did leaf strokes yesterday. It was just starting with the tip, pressing down, extending. This is more of a starting with the tip and then kind of just going upward that way. So flick of the wrist, just like that. All right, I'm going to add a couple more here. And then let's add, see how it's kind of shaking that way. That can happen, guys. It's all good. So that's why I kind of rest the base on the sheet here so I have more stability. So I'm just kind of framing this so we've got some nice greens around this over here, okay? So that's the whole idea there. I'm going to drop in some of the green over here just so it kind of outlines a couple of dark shadowy areas between the two flowers. And then, just like I mentioned yesterday, what I like to do after I have laid down the leaves before it dries up is just dropping in a darker tone within the stem or the base of the leaf. And it adds such a pretty loose depth-like effect, shadowy effect to your leaves, because once it dries up, it's going to just dry up flat. But if you add a second layer, you're getting more pop. Okay, so loving how this looks so far. Let's do one more around here, but I don't want it to kind of look like it's going upward. So this is where composition comes into play, right? I'm going to do one kind of going up this way, just so it doesn't look like one's up there, one's down here. And then we'll add more leaves. So one more time, let's do this. Starting with cobalt violet for our base. The more you do this, guys, if I've not mentioned this already, the easier it gets. So if the first time you tried it and you're like, oh my gosh, look what happened, try it again, because now that was a lesson and you're going to do things differently the second time around. Don't give up, okay? So we're starting off lighter, adding more water to my mixture, making sure my brush is full of water. I'm going to start with a dot like that, and then I'm just going to slowly kind of build up on the shape going downward. Making sure that it's sort of connecting. The shapes are very much so organic. We're trying to create a, not a blob, like a rectangular, triangular shape to cone shape. That's a better word. And eating into the flowers, we're also leaving lots of white space because if you don't have white space, it's going to look like a blob. White space is your friend. Okay, so very light. I kind of like that. You could almost leave it that way too, just as a background flower, but it needs a little bit more contrast just so it can kind of gel well with this one. So I got some color directly from here. I'm going to start at the top. Notice how it drops down immediately. I'm going to add very sparingly certain areas. And if you have your darkest tones closer to the flower, the second flower here, that's fine because shadowy effect, right? I'm not going to add any more of this color. I'm going to go right into that second color of ours, which is, for me, it is ultra. I'm getting it directly from here. But now, again, if I've not mentioned it before, or maybe you missed it in the first one, when you're adding this second tone, you need to have more color, less water happening because there's a lot of water happening. Now, if you add more water on here, like a diluted pink, it's just going to kind of sit because we've got little petals happening already, which work in our favor. So the second round needs more color, less water, okay? There's a science behind this. Like watercolor is not like gouache. It isn't like acrylic where you kind of just, you can just paint over things and they'll magically disappear or appear. Watercolor is a science. And like I mentioned, your supplies are involved in the results you get. Timing is involved. Technique is good to know, but if you don't understand how the medium works, you are not going to get results with just the technique alone. Okay. And all of that requires you to sit down and give it a shot because that's how you will get a feel for how this works. All right. So I like how this is lighter, this is darker, this has more of the pinky hues. So it kind of works in my opinion. Now we're going to go for our greens. Again, I love the dark green in comparison to, as a contrast to the bright colors. So I'm going to continue with that. And this time I'm going to add a sprig, or sorry, a stem right here, because this is damp. So what's happening is I have that stem and the colors seeping into the stem. Beautiful effect, especially if you love that flowy, natural, romantic watercolor look. And then leaves. Again, I painted this leaf deliberately touching this lilac so it kind of seeps in. Then let's just do a leaf kind of just flopping that way because you're adding movement when you add curves and curves. Yes, when you add your leaves as a curvy thing as opposed to just straight, you're adding movement. Where's my hooker's green? Okay, I'm going to mix a little bit more of the hooker's green because it's looking to be a little bit too dark. I'm going to get some hooker's green mixed in here just so it kind of looks a little bit more green. And then add more leaves. All right, so lots of detail that I have given you in today's lesson. So just keep it in mind. And if not, don't worry. This is a replay. You can watch this anytime you feel like to kind of re-jog your memory. Let's do a couple here. And I'm going to mix a little bit of the raw sienna in with this green just to kind of get it to be a tad bit darker, with more of a brown edge to it. And then I'm just dropping little strokes within here. Okay, so it looks nice and like fluffy with leaves over there. Focus in with our flowers. I'm kind of regretting this looking so thick, but we're gonna roll with it. This is what it's called, to go with the flow. So we've got these flowers. I think this is great, but we need to have a little bit more happening here at the bottom. So we're gonna add little tiny flowers, kind of like what we did on day one. And if you're just tuning in, let me just show you what we did day one. We are on day three. Day one, we did something like this. So these are like the basic 5-petal flowers, but I really broke it down by adding all these details to it. So we're going to do something like that. And for color, what are you guys thinking? I've got yellow, orange, I've got pink, I've got purple. Should we do, I'm open to suggestions. Anyone want to mention in the chat what would go well with this? And I am happy to oblige. You have a preference? Otherwise, I'm almost thinking maybe it would be nice to use the second tone, which is the ultramarine pink. I think the ultramarine pink might be nice. Nice touch. Yes, Jen. But that's exactly what I was thinking. More pink. Okay, let's add some of that over here. So this time now, here's what I'm going to do. Move my sheet a little bit. So I'm going to get the dark tone, which we have is cobalt violet. Actually, no, we won't start with cobalt violet because if I do that, we run across the issue of making it too dark of a purple. So let's start off with ultramarine pink. Like I always say, start off light and then add your darker tones. This way you have more control. So let's start off with the ultramarine pink. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These flowers are also in the book, starting off basics. So then with water on my brush, I'm spreading it around to create my 5 petals. Trying to leave a little bit of white space in between. You might not be able to see it as clearly right now, but it's very soft. And what I'm going to do now that I have my flower shape, go back, get some color. And then dropping it into the center. Now, again, you need to get a ton of color to give you a nice blue. You see how I'm just kind of dabbing it into the center and it's slowly seeping out. But I don't like how the seeping is happening, so I'm actually going to help it along. I'm going to add little strokes of this color on the outskirts. On the edges. Because I want that center, some of the petals to still have a little bit of white or like a light pink. So just like that. And then now, this is the stage where you can add some of that dark purple in the center. So now all of a sudden you're getting just a hint of purple in the center and you're able to control that more. So you see the science behind starting off light and then adding a darker tone. It's so you can control how the color moves. And now, because it's sitting here and it's kind of doing this little veiny effect, I'm just going to slowly help it along. Pull it out into the petals. So we've got hints of this color now into the flower as well. And now because we did that, the center is a little bit lighter because now we're sharing color with the other elements. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this raw sienna instead of the purple, because if I add purple, it's going to be like that. So let's add a little bit of the brown. Actually, or even yellow, because I'm looking at this right now. I'm like, it's all right. I feel like the yellow might be better. Let's do the yellow for the next few months. I'm just going to try and lift some of this color off. So what I'm doing is with my damp brush, I'm just kind of lifting some of this color off. So let's do the yellow that I mentioned, okay? This one can just be our trial. This is also to show you that, hey, even I don't do things perfectly, guys. Sometimes you kind of roll with the punches and then you realize, hey, you should have done it slightly differently. Have grace for yourself. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Getting some water on my brush. I'm going to move these around. And again, for this one, I took my time doing. You don't have to wait that long or be precise with your strokes. You can kind of just, once you know your shape and you know the effects you're looking for, you can kind of move faster. Dropping some of that purple in there, moving some of the purple around. I'm kind of trying to take that away, but I'm making a muck of it. Here we go. Some of the yellow. Let's drop that in. Yeah, see, I feel like the yellow fits nicer with everything. Okay, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to get some of the alizarin crimson, and we'll do a couple with them. So this way we're tying in all the colors that we have. They're kind of part of that whole composition, making sure your palette kind of works with one another. And this time I'm going to add some of this lake purple. Was it lake purple? Ultramarine pink, sorry. Within this. And now I'm moving extra quick. What I'm going to do is just add a couple of dabs of this color that I have on my brush as fluffing around these flowers. Let's get a little bit more of the alizarin crimson, drop that in. I'm going to get a little bit happening there. Then let's do some here. This time I'm just doing half. So like half the flower will be out. Washing off the color from my brush because I want this to be light. Controlling the darkness or lightness of this so that it doesn't overpower. Everything doesn't look overpowering. One of the things about watercolor is learning how to add or take away the water as and when needed. So you have a hierarchy. So your eye is not jumping all over the place, but you have a point of focus for you to start. Ultramarine pink in the center here. These two colors go really well. The ultramarine pink with the alizarin crimson. I'm really liking that. Okay, let's get some of that yellow. Drop that in. Oh, that's so pretty. I don't know if you can see it for its true values on screen, but in person it looks so good. Just the blend with the colors. Adding some of that yellow and some of these other peeping Tom flowers. Okay, maybe that was not the best description. Like peeping from behind. Okay, getting some green because now it's time to add some green. I don't want to make this too much of a long session for you guys. We've covered quite a bit. So I want the green to be a lot more muted. So what I'm actually going to do is get some of that yellow that we've been using for the center, mix it with the green that I have. So I get more of a brighter, fresher looking green. And then I'm dropping in little strokes like this. So definitely in between those flowers. So we have a semblance of an idea that they are separate. right? Just kind of break it up. And it's okay if you go a little bit darker there because shadow effects between the flowers. You can add some in between here as well. Just little dabs so you can see that there's greenery happening there. And then I'm dipping my brush in water to kind of get more watery green on my brush. And just very loose strokes now, right? Like touching areas that are damp so you get some nice seepage happening. Adding a couple of dots here and there to kind of indicate loose greenery going on. Really watering it down for these steps, guys, because you want it to make it look like a soft edge. And that's what I call fluffing. So again, if you notice, I'm going up to these other areas, kind of adding a couple of dabs here and there to kind of indicate that there's more. Because if you kind of just leave your main elements as is, it's just going to look very, in my eyes, I call it strange. But then when you have all these other elements happening, it looks a little bit more realistic while keeping things loose. Okay, and I think what I'm also going to do is add a couple more leaves around here. I'm really liking this. Are you guys painting along or are you just watching to paint along later? And are you getting results that you like? Just wondering. All right, here we go. I got my green that I like. I'm going to add stem here and leaves. Now, if you prefer using those nice long leaves that we painted yesterday, because they're easier for you and you just learned how to do them, go ahead and do that. I'm just very free with my strokes and adding leaves where I think is needed. And then, like I mentioned, adding that darker tone right at the edge so that you get that nice dark to light effect. Tone down my green by adding some brown. And I know I said I wanted these to be lighter, but I just felt the urge to add a couple here. And this is just to keep in mind that, you know, like when watercolor dries up, you're going to look back at what you thought was good before, and you're going to be like, I think it needs more of this. Listen to that intuition. This is how you kind of grow into your own creativity and learning how to move and what to do when. And now, I think this is good enough. We've got a lot of elements going on. What we're going to finish off with is adding lighter looking and a splatter. So I'll start off with the splatter first. So using that same brush and do a splatter here where the leaves are, another one here, another one here. I'm trying to add it just specifically in the areas where the leaves are placed. I'm trying to avoid the flowers, but if it falls into the flowers, that's totally fine. Don't worry about that. And now what we're going to do is, using the same brush, we're going to just go in and add smaller, like kind of use those little blobs, some of the blobs that we have to kind of create more leafy goodness around. Okay, that one's a little bit awkward over there, but we're going to roll with it. So I'm kind of just fluffing without getting a lot of control, because I'm allowing the, with giving up control rather, because I'm allowing the blobs or the splatter to tell me where I'm adding more elements. Usually for this stage, if you were super into the whole, I need things placed a certain way, you would go in and do that yourself in terms of placement. But I like kind of throwing caution to the wind and just seeing what can come out of things. And so this is why I just use this splatter to kind of dictate where things are going to go. Okay. So just like we did the two-tone colors within these lilacs to kind of manage dark tones, light tones, you can do the same thing with your leaves as well. Like I mentioned, when you go in with a darker tone and just kind of highlight certain areas, it really makes things pop. So right now, I really like how those are really nice and dark. These are all really bright, in my opinion. So I'm just going to get a slightly darker mixture of green, and I'm just going to add one more layer, and then we are done. So I'm just kind of adding a stroke, the vein going through the leaf, for example. Another one over here. You can have like overlapping leaves if you want. Very loose detail. Hi, Lydia. Oh, so lovely that you could join. I hope you're doing well. I just looked up and I'm looking to see your message. And then I'm going to add a couple here too, because these guys are so close to the flower. I feel like that would be a really nice addition. And let's see. Adding a couple strokes here and there. So pick and choose your areas where you know you could use a little more definition. That's what I'm doing right now. And again, like I mentioned, don't do it for every leaf. Do it for just a couple that you want to be more prominent. So I hope you guys are liking this. Remember, guys, don't forget to hit the like button if you are enjoying this so that more people can find these videos. Paint along with us. Okay, so I'm almost done. Yeah, okay. So this is what we're going to end with. There's more that I could do with some of the flowers, especially these ones over here, but I'm not going to overcomplicate things. I like this is like the old style of Clarice loose flowers that I used to do way back when. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is again straight, like these elements are straight from the book P50 Watercolor Nature. So if you like little bite-sized lessons, because this was a lot, I get it. The book has 50 elements, which the way it's supposed to be used is you learn those elements and then you team it together to create your own compositions just like this. So check it out if you get a chance. And if not, just like I hope you gained a lot of knowledge and pointers about watercolor from this video, because it's such calm, therapeutic medium to use to express. That's how I fell in love with it. I feel like it really does help me regulate. So yeah, any questions at all? Now is the time, guys. I'm looking at the chat. Let me see who's saying what. Kathleen, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your beautiful day to make this tutorial. The flowers are beautiful. Thanks, Kathleen. I'm so glad you enjoyed this. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to come join me for this. And if you're just joining in right now, the replay will be available. So just check it out whenever you do have a chance. Lots of great stuff, especially if you love flowers. Just play it back after, and feel free to share with friends and whoever else that need to learn and want to explore watercolor. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, tomorrow is going to be day 4, our second last day. And like I mentioned, if you've missed the first 2 days, go check it out. This was day 1. And this right here was day 2. And we just finished day 3. So on that note, guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Bye.